Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. I haven't been before you guys, and I miss you guys. Shout out to all my new subscribers. Really appreciate you. We're gonna do a Christmas giveaway, even though I don't celebrate pagan holidays. Um, and the reason why a lot of people say, "Well, I'm late with this information. I'm late with that information." I don't report on trending topics as they come because new information always comes out, and I want to make sure that I have the whole story, not half a story and move on. No, I take things to the end, and that's what I do. When Trump got into office, the first thing he did was start dismantling USA, just stopping money, ending the programs, ending things for transgender, ending things for DEI, you know, um, sending money for hate groups or the Taliban or funding George Soros, Illuminati himself, who wants the destruction of America. So I was happy he dismantled USA. People have been getting money from us taxpayers who don't have America's best interest in heart. This is pineapple. It is good. It is really good. Excuse me. So the Supreme Court just came out. Supreme Court allows Trump to slash foreign aid. Trump, no matter how you feel about Trump, he been winning. This like his 21 wins straight in a row. And if you never read the Constitution, you will see the rights of the executive office who is over the land. They have powers that nobody else has. And so they wondering why he winning. He winning based on the roles of the president who has executive powers. That's a fact. So anyway, Supreme Court allows Trump to slash foreign aid. The court's conservative majority allowed the president to cut the funding in part because it said his flexibility to engage in foreign affairs outweighed the potential harm faced by aid recipients. The Supreme Court on Friday allowed the Trump administration to withhold $4 billion in foreign aid that had been appropriated by Congress in a preliminary test of President Trump's efforts to wrest power of the purse from lawmakers. In its brief, the court's conservative majority allowed the president to cut the funding in part because it said his flexibility to engage in foreign affairs outweighed the potential harm faced by aid recipients. The justices cautioned that their decision, a temporary one, while litigation continues, should not be read as final determination on the merits. The three liberal justices dissented, saying the issue before the court was too consequential to have been dealt with on an emergency basis. The stakes are high. At issue is the allocation of power between executive and Congress over how government funds are spent, wrote Justice Kagan, who was joined by Justice Sotomayor and DI Judge Ketanji Jackson. Justice Kagan noted that while the majority's order was an internal measure, the funding Congress appropriated would not reach foreign aid groups regardless of how the underlying litigation was resolved. And a lot of that money, they just take it and they scamming for it. They ain't doing what they saying with that money. In response to the Supreme Court order, lawyers for one of the challengers, the AIDS Vaccine Advocacy Coalition, said that the ruling allowed the administration to refuse to pay out billions it was required by law to spend. This result further erodes separation of powers principles that are fundamental to our constitutional order. Nicholas Sanson, a lawyer with Public Citizen Litigation Group who represents the coalition, said in a statement, it will also have a grave humanitarian impact on vulnerable communities throughout the world. The Solicitor General, D. John Sawyer, had told Justice that a lower court order requiring the president to release billions of dollars before the end of the month raised a grave and urgent threat to the president's ability to negotiate with Congress over money without interference from the courts. Mr. Trump issued an executive order on his first day in office pausing funding for programs around the world to determine whether they are fully aligned with the foreign policy of the president. What's wrong with that? Oh, there goes Todd, my neighbor. Two nonprofit organizations, the AIDS Vaccine Advocacy Coalition and Global Health Council, challenged the freeze as unconstitutional infringement of Congress' authority over spending. No, it's not. The case has reached the Supreme Court three times since Mr. Trump returned to, and why they call him Mr. Trump, that's so disrespectful. President Trump returned to the White House. The administration has resumed paying billions of dollars in other grants and obligations. Friday's order came in response to a September 3rd ruling from Judge Ali of federal district court in Washington, who sided with the nonprofit organizations. The administration, he wrote, is obligated to comply with appropriations law unless and until Congress does change the law, prompting the administration to appeal. Lawyers for the organizations told the judge that government has been obligated to spend the funds since at least March 2024 when they were appropriated by Congress. The $4 billion is intended for food security programs to help other countries build trade capacity and to aid victims of torture, among other assistance. I'm so glad they dismantled. When I go through and tell y'all what we was funding, it was some bullshit. At issue is the latest round in a proposal the administration recently submitted to Congress to cancel billions in funding that lawmakers have previously approved. The administration argues that if Congress does not act on the rescission plan before the fiscal year ends on Tuesday, the appropriated funds will automatically expire without being spent. It presents an untested legal effort by the Trump administration to essentially run out the clock of the fiscal year. Republicans could bring the rescission proposal to a vote before then, but GOP leaders have not signaled they intend to do so. In their court filings, the organizations have cast doubt on the viability of the administration's effort in Congress for a number of reasons. That includes, they argue that the administration failed to follow procedure for formally delivering the proposed rescissions to the House and Senate as required by 1974 law. The sitting court with six justice conservative minority has repeatedly granted the president's emergency request. While the orders are technically interim, they have had broad consequences, allowing the administration to remove protections for hundreds of thousands of migrants, fuck them, to fire independent governor regulators, and remove transgender troops from the military. In the foreign aid case, Chief Justice John Roberts Temporary pause the federal judge's latest ruling ordering the Trump administration to pay out $4 billion, meaning the funding has been frozen with the full court considered the case. But in early decision of the case in March, the Chief Justice and Justice Amy Baird joined the three liberal justices in rejecting Mr. Trump's request to freeze nearly $2 billion while litigation continued in lower courts. This time, the administration told the justice the lower court could not interfere with the president's attempt to cancel the funds while his proposal is pending before Congress. In its two-paragraph order Friday, the court's majority credited the administration's argument that the 1974 Empowerment Control Act prevented the type of lawsuit the foreign aid groups filed to try to recoup the appropriated funds. In a nine-page dissent, Justin Kagan, Stoudemire, and Jackson said the text and history of the law did not preclude such lawsuits. They also took issue with the administration's claim that it would suffer harm by having to pay out the funds and engage in negotiations with international organizations. But this is just the price of living under a constitution that gives Congress the power to make spending decisions through the enactment of appropriate laws, Justin Kagan wrote, adding that such a concern was merely a frustration any president must be. And that is the latest news on that. I was going to go on, but I got old news, so. And now that's what we're getting into. I'm trying to show facts. No more free money. Exactly. For terrorist organizations, for transgender surgeries, for funding George Soros, Illuminati itself. No more. I did a video on George Soros. Y'all should check that out. Now, USAID staff will be cut to less than 300, sources say. The entire global workforce at the U.S. Agency for International Development will be reduced to fewer than 300 employees, down from nearly 14,000 prior to Trump. Wow. He cut the staff and all the aid. Oh, shoot. Oh, I should have wrote this down. Let me find this next article. Hmm. Hmm. Senator Janine Shahan, the top Democrat on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, so she part of the shadow government, joined with committee Democrats to demand in a letter that Secretary of State Marco Rubio provide additional information about events regarding U.S. aid. Congress established the U.S. Agency for International Development as an independent agency separate from Department of State to ensure that we can deploy development expertise and U.S. foreign assistance quickly, particularly in times of crisis to meet our national security goals. For this reason, any effort to merge or fold USA into its Department of State should be and by law must be previewed, discussed, and approved by Congress. The senators are seeking information on individuals who reportedly access U.S. aid headquarters. We request an immediate update about the access to USAID headquarters, including whether individuals who access the headquarters were authorized to be there and by whom, whether all individuals who access classified space to have active security clearance at the appropriate level what they were seeking to access. And that was a lot, wasn't it? Well, maybe I should do Daniel Perry. I am gonna do him. USA staffers told to stay out of DC headquarters after Musk and Trump agreed to shut it down. Just a ball of worms. USA workers received an email Monday telling them to stay out of the US headquarters as Musk and the White House moved to shut it down and reorganize it. Further guidance will be forthcoming. Remember, and now, see, I tried to tell you, that's why I didn't report. I did do some on Elon and Musk when they fell out. I knew that was some bullshit because now they good friends again. It was PSYOP, a psychological operation on the American people. The email appears to have been drafted by Gavin Kinger, an engineer at at Doge, which has been charged with trimming federal spending from the agency roughly 40 billion budget as well as other executive branches. The US is the largest funder of foreign aid internationally, including through USA, and Republicans have routinely slammed the agency work, particularly for having been wasteful with taxpayers' money and unnecessarily promoting a left wing agenda. I'm glad it's gone. Last month, House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Brian Max called out several controversial DEI expenditures, which ended up being halted by a 90-day foreign funding pause imposed by the Trump office. For example, faulted the Biden administration for approving 1.5 million in U.S. funding for employment and entrepreneurial opportunities to the Siberian LGBTQ community, which translate group come out. Why are we funding that? 1.5 million. Give it to me. The Foreign Affairs Committee chairman also slammed the USA grant, including 2.5 million electric Vietnam. I don't fund electric in Vietnam. I don't care if y'all drive or not. 7,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia. Why we funding that? That don't help us. And 32,000 for a production of a Peruvian transgender comic book. For real. Then we funded the Wuhan labs for Dr. Fauci that created the strand of C19, where the virus causing C19 emerged more than 5 years. We funded that to all the people that passed away. Millions more in funding was sent for relief at the Gaza Strip, even while being marked as high risk of falling into the hands of Hamas terrorists by the agency's own watchdog. Secretary of State Marco Rubio told reporters Monday afternoon that the agency had a level of insubordination that makes it possible to conduct a sort of mature, serious review that I think Ford Aid should have. Facts. Trump 78 told reporters that USA has been run by a bunch of radical lunatics and we're getting them out. Musk said hours later on SpaceX Spaces events that President has agreed with the billionaire Tesla and SpaceX founder that we should shut it down. It became apparent that it's not an apple with a worm, Musk told listeners. What we have is just a ball of worms. You got to basically get rid of the whole thing. It's beyond repair. Damn. So in 2023, 43 billion went toward foreign government's assistance, followed by humanitarian aid 10.5 billion, healthcare initiatives 7 billion, administrative efforts 3.5 billion, and agriculture, education, infrastructure projects 3.1 billion. Trump's funding freeze on foreign assistance has since shut down many of USAID's programs worldwide. It has, compelling thousands of layoffs by non-governmental groups. Good. But the agency's near closure has also barred access to security apps critical for some agency staff aboard in conflict zones. Congressional Democrats held a press conference outside USA headquarters protesting alongside other critics that the shuttering of the agency was unconstitutional. No, it wasn't because y'all just created it. That one created in 1700. Two USA security officials were placed on leave after refusing to let Doge's team access classified material in restricted areas at the agency headquarters in the Ronald Reagan building near the White House. The agency chief of staff, Matt Hobson, who just had been appointed by Trump administration, subsequently resigned, though it's unclear if his departure was a result of what other incident. Did you know that USA was using your tax? I just said to fund that. USA approved 854,000 in grants to the University of California, which funneled the money to Equal Health Alliance for research on bats. The fuck? Wow. And other animals. And test clone and sequence from samples that test positive for virus, including influenza and corona, the C word viruses. The Department of Health and Human Services halted grants to EcoHealth last year and barred last month from receiving any federal funds for the next 5 years. I guess they got shut down. Okay, that's the Bible. Okay. Hey, we have 4 and 5. Let me see. Let me see. Hmm. Oh, okay. I just read this, so let me delete this. I had this twice. Ooh, that's even better. Making room on the telephone, on the cell phone. Oh, Elan Omar, I can't stand her. She needs to go back to Somalia. What Trump and Elon and all of their cronies are doing is to take away the constitutional power of Congress. In 1961, John F. Kennedy created USAID by an executive order to provide humanitarian, development, and security assistance, prompting some critics of the agency to point out Trump could simply revoke the order. He could. I'm glad it's gone because it funded too much bullshit. Musk even alleged that the agency is a criminal organization and Viper's nest of radical left Marxists who hate America. That's a fact, giving all that money to George Soros. Did you know USA funded C-19 that underlie millions of people around the world? 53 million we gave to fund C-19 that killed all them people around the world. According to a June 2023 government, USA paid. Okay, I read that in the last one. I can let that go. Yeah, I read that in the last one. Let me delete this. So they wanted to fund 1.5 million to employment and entrepreneurial opportunities to Siberian pro LGBTQ people was trying to group come out. That don't help our interest. Should give me the money. 42,000, 2.5 million for electric vehicles in Vietnam. 40, I read that before, so let me get it. All right, I'm gonna read one more and then we're gonna get in the video. Yeah. Trump White took the name off the building and everything. Sesame Street in Iraq, USA's wasteful and dangerous spending. Senator Joni Ernst published a list of programs and projects she says the USA was funding. Funneling tax dollars to risky research in Wuhan to send Ukrainians to Paris Fashion Week. We was funding that bullshit. USA is one of the worst offenders of waste in Washington, and that is a fact all around the world. They authorized a 20 million to Iraq to create Sesame Street. You think that was gonna happen? Okay, let me see. I'm gonna get into that. The plan, however, backfired and led to increase. Now the 20 million, the funds that they sent before, it led to an increase in poppy production and thus opium production during the war in Afghanistan. They weren't going to use that money for that. During the war in Afghanistan, USA spent millions of dollars to help Afghans grow crops of opium. So we funded, but the CIA allegedly, because I gotta say allegedly, have been funding drugs through America. It was all came out in the U.S., Iran, and Contra thing that were Oliver North, Ronald Reagan, and all that. Been doing it. USA paid farmers to build or rehab miles of irrigation canals in Afghanistan during the Obama administration in an effort to persuade the farmers to grow fruits and other plants. But they only grew poppy fields. And another example, Moroccan pottery classes and promotions. 2 million for that. Morocco has for thousands of years created pottery back to 6000 BC, but we funded that for $2 million. 1 million into batty research on coronaviruses in China. In China, we spent 2 million on promoting tourism to Lebanon through USA. What the fuck? USA spends money like it's going out of fashion. Trade assistance to Ukraine, paid for models and designers to take trips to New York City and London Fashion Week. The fuck? That's millions of dollars bullshit. Secretary of State Marco Rubio stated that he is now the acting director of USAID and told the media on Monday that the agency needs to be brought in line with Trump's America First agenda. Then there was a whole bunch of lawsuits that came out because he stopped funding people lost their income who worked at these NGOs, non-governmental agencies. So they sued. Ain't that some bullshit? Both nonprofit groups and companies that have contracts with the agencies could launch claims based on losses caused by the government reneging on its agreements. Making it make sense. Some companies rely on USAID contracts are at risk of imminent bankruptcy if payments are not made. That is not our problem. Due to the fact USAID did provide assistance to impoverished people has been abandoned with essential aid that was in transit now in a state of limbo. The non-profit groups are expected to claim, among others, that the government has violated the Administrative Procedure Act, a law that requires agencies to follow the correct legal procedures before making decisions. And I didn't know I had all this on there. And guess what happened? They lost. Trump been winning. Let me make sure that's it. And then we're about to get to the video. Mhm. All right, let's go to my notes. Here's my USA. Oh, here we go. All right, here we go.
The Department of Government Efficiency, that is DOGE, they have now gained access to the documents and files and payments of USAID. And look, with this, the investigations are going into what the United States Agency for International Development has been funding, and it's now sparking a national debate. And also, the investigations into U.S. spending, they don't end there. Elon Musk, through the DOGE department, has also now gained access to the Treasury Department payment system and their data. And meanwhile, Trump has also signed an order to create the first ever U.S. sovereign wealth fund. It might even buy TikTok with it. Also, Trump's threats to have the U.S. retake control of the Panama Canal. Well, the threats seem to be working. Panama has now pulled out of the CCP's Belt and Road Initiative.
So
I'll be
did.
talking about these topics and more today. Let's jump in. Now, first up, folks, the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, under Elon Musk. Well, it has gained access to USAID. And the investigations into what the United States Agency for International Development has been giving our money to is now sparking a very big debate. The agency is now being moved under the State Department. They're kind of reforming its operations as we speak, and it could serve a different mission going forward through this. Now, Elon Musk has taken to X to highlight the many, many examples of what U.S. taxpayer dollars have been spent on through USAID. I mean, I'll just give you an example. One where he commented, mind-blowing, allegedly shows that USAID and others had sent over $40 million to scientists, guess where? Wuhan, China, to work on that coronavirus. Interesting. The executive director of the Foundation for Freedom Online noted the impact of the information release, and he said,
And that's some bullshit right
you
there.
will quickly find as you enter the amazing USAID vortex of despair. Virtually every powerful political and financial motor of American society that promotes and lobbies for USAID is either directly on USAID's payroll, works at a place that is, or his/her donors do, suggesting, of course, that USAID seems to be giving money to people who are defending it, and it's kind of its own little nexus. Now, Benz also noted that even the campaigns of, light on crime prosecutors, called them the Soros DAs and stuff, it wasn't just money from Soros. A lot of it was money from USAID.
Facts.
It turns out they're one of the big funders of these individuals.
Yep.
Although he noted a common pattern, which is this. Oftentimes it seems the money goes through other organizations. It goes to one organization first, your taxpayer dollars, and then USAID gives that money to, a nonprofit. That nonprofit then backs the various campaigns and social movements like these. And so it kind of goes through a two-stage process, meaning it's not direct enough, often the case. Now, alerts also went out notably telling USAID workers to stay home as Elon Musk moved to investigate the organization. Fox News said this. It says, U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID staffers, were told in an email.
And I already went over that. So we're going to get rid of that.
Let's talk about this USAID thing, because that one's getting really interesting. So
this is
I
Megyn
think most
Kelly.
Americans had never even heard of this organization, or didn't, if they've heard of it, they didn't know what it does. I still am not totally up to speed on what it does, but it appears to be a group that is overwhelmingly hard left in terms of its employees and the people we staff it with, and the people that then create these NGOs to which this USAID then gives its money, funneling to various causes that are very woke in many cases, like large LGBTQ and that kind of promotional stuff. The defenders say that's not all what it appears to be, that some of those so-called woke projects in these dicey third world countries are actually fronts for groups that will be democracy checks, that will quietly organize, democratic opposition to tyrants, that kind of thing. So it could be just, blatant manipulation of foreign governments under the auspices of Black Lives Matter. I don't know the truth, but what I do know is Elon is getting all sorts of bad press this week because Doge is kicking the tires first of this organization. Like, they're going to kick a lot of tires of a lot of organizations, but they started with this one. And his conclusion was it wasn't just a matter of getting the bad worm out of the bad apple. It's the entire thing is worms. There's no apple. There's absolutely no flesh of the fruit. And the whole thing needs to go. It's been shut down now. Everybody's been told you're on temporary leave, paid leave. Only the essential workers will be allowed back into the building, and we'll tell you by Thursday at 3, I think, whether you are an essential worker at USAID. And when you look at who's really objecting to this, it's all people we don't like Ilana.
Listen, he cut 14,000 workers down to 300. I'm just gonna move past
We've been
them.
out here for a long time, and goddamn it, shut down the city. We are at war. Stand with you in this fight.
And she facing 17 years for assaulting a ICE agent. That's LaMonica. I did a video on her. Check it out. She about to go to trial.
We will win. We will win. We will win. We will win. We will
No one's joining him.
We won't rest. We won't rest. We won't rest. We won't rest. Thank you, everybody.
No one's even mouthing it.
And they lost.
Dude, 90 days ago you lost. What are you talking about? And I do love the woman who's we're at war. We got to shut down the city. It's like you represent Newark. You represent Newark and Orange, New Jersey, which have been shut down in that war for about 20 years now.
Right.
It's a little closer to home. Good Lord.
Let me clarify my political reporting. Steve Crack, our EP, tells me that those $8.1 million are apparently employees or agencies buying some very expensive subscription to Politico. It's not that Politico got grants or other federal funding. Okay, so I don't totally understand the clarification.
And some of that,
they received
some
grants.
6.4 million of that happened during the Trump administration, or that's what the level was in Trump 1.0. It's still why is this happening?
Exactly.
The government should pay for this. I think one of the things that Elon Musk is doing right now, as installing Doge into the U.S. Digital Services organization, which was started under Obama, created under Obama to help fix the problems with the Obamacare website, but then became this sort of government efficiency thing. By doing that, he is sort of seeing how the machinery of payments and tech happens with the government. This is sort of the difference between him and Vivek Ramaswamy about what to do with Doge. Vivek, I think, was more concerned with executive orders and looking for these kind of efficiencies. And Musk is like, let me get inside the tech. And we're seeing the fruits. And that was initially on the side of Vivek Ramaswamy's approach towards this. We're seeing the fruits of charities, nonprofit groups, civil society groups, and it does that a lot in big cities like New York. It also does this in overseas in ways that most people are not aware of. And I think a lot of it is pretty skeevy. It ends up sort of rewarding your political allies, allowing people to have a job when their administration or with their political team is kind of out of power.
Facts.
And a lot of it's gross. And so
asked by President Trump to do to get the fraud, waste, and abuse out of our federal government.
The first term of USAID was something that you liked in some respects.
I love the concept of it.
Yeah.
Sure, I love the concept, but they turn out to be radical left lunatics. And the concept of it is good, but it's all about the people.
How about those initiatives?
I gotta say,
I'm glad it's gone. We were paying for shit that did not benefit us. This is represent a nasty mace.
And there's been a lot of pearl clutching over the last several days from my colleagues across the aisle on Donald Trump.
Secretary Rubio, the Department of Government Efficiency's plan to reorganize the U.S. Agency for International Development, or as we all now know, USAID. They're screaming about Elon Musk over there, but hey, George Soros and his boy,
Facts.
okay.
Facts.
They scream that we're all a threat to democracy when they've been systematic.
George Soros, Illuminati himself. Check out my video on George Soros. Facts.
Dismantling democracy before our eyes. They've been caught with their hand in the cookie jar, and there's no going back. So I tell my colleagues across the other side of the aisle, take your salty tears and sit right back down. USAID has long strayed from its mission to effectively and efficiently administer aid to advance American interests. USAID has become rotten to its core.
Facts.
Sacrificing the prudent use of taxpayer dollars at the altar of advancing radical, sinister social and political agendas abroad. From discriminatory DEI initiatives to extreme gender ideology to marginalize real bona fide biological women. For decades, while homeless veterans sleep on our streets, our communities rebuild from natural disasters, and American families struggle to get by, USAID has pillaged and plundered the American treasury,
Facts.
essentially lighting American taxpayer dollars on fire,
Facts.
funding some of the dumbest, stupidest, just dumbest initiatives imaginable, all supported by the left, and that's why their party is crumbling. Today, I'm going to expose some of the initiatives USAID has funded over the years and ask each of you a yes or no question. If you believe these expenditures of American taxpayer dollars put America first. So it'll be yes or no. USAID awarded $2 million to strengthen trans-led organizations to deliver gender-affirming health care in Guatemala. So to each of you this morning, does this advance the interests of American citizens paying for trannies in Guatemala to the tune of $2 million?
Hell no. Hell no.
I have no position.
Of course you don't. Okay, USAID awarded over $750,000 to fund alleviating loneliness among migrant garment workers in India. Does this advance American
Loneliness. The fuck?
I have no position.
USAID awarded $1.5 million for providing a gender-sensitive response to migration at the Venezuelan border. Does this advance America's interests, Governor? No.
No, I have no position.
Does this advance the interest? Okay, so USAID awarded $4.3 million on October 1st, 2023 to a group to fund comprehensive health services for men having sex with other men in South Africa. Does this advance the interests of American citizens, Governor? No.
No, I have no position.
I bet you don't. Okay. USAID awarded $1.5 million to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in Serbia's workplaces and business communities by promoting economic empowerment and opportunity for LGBTQI plus people in Serbia. Does this advance America's interests?
Hell no.
No. Nope.
You have no idea, right? Okay. USAID awarded over $70,000 to a group to deliver a live musical event to promote the U.S. and Irish shared values of diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. Does this advance the interests of America? No.
No. No position.
No position or no clue. Okay, USAID awarded $1.5 million to fund strengthening community support structures to upscale LGBT rights advocacy in Jamaica. Does this advance our interests? No.
No. No position.
USAID awarded $28 million to a group to facilitate the economic insertion of Venezuelan migrants and refugees in Peru and Ecuador. Does this advance our interests? No.
No. No.
28 million. No wonder they was coming over here.
USAID awarded $17.5 million to fund voluntary medical male circumcision overseas. Does this advance America's interests? No.
No. No position.
I don't know what circumcision overseas has to do with America First either. USAID awarded nearly $150,000 to fund HIV prevention services targeting men who have sex with men and transgender. Does this advance America's interests? No.
No. No position.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm limited to 5 minutes, but these are the programs Democrats are so desperate to save.
That we was funding that is ridiculous. Just ridiculous. Our money went to bullshit. Okay, I'm gonna try to get two more videos in. It's gonna be
USAID has gotten a lot of attention the last couple of days with some of these bizarre things that we've been, taxpayers have been funding. Now it looks like there are a couple media outlets that have been dragged into this conversation as far as USAID funding as well. Does the president have any comment on that?
So upon coming out here to the briefing room, I was made aware of the funding from USAID to media outlets, including Politico, who I know has a seat in this room. And I can confirm that the more than 8 million taxpayer dollars that have gone to essentially subsidizing subscriptions to Politico on the American taxpayers' dime will no longer be happening. The Doge team is working on canceling those payments now. Again, this is a whole of government effort to ensure that we are going line by line when it comes to the federal government's books. And this president and his team are making decisions across the board on, do these receipts serve the interests of the American people? Is this a good use of the American taxpayers' money? If it is not, that funding will no longer be sent abroad, and American taxpayers will see significant savings because of that effort.
boom. I'm gonna try to
Been
get
very
through.
clear. The policy of this administration is that there are only two sexes, male and female. Pretty simple. Ryan Glenn.
Yes. USAID has gotten a lot of attention the last couple of days with some of these bizarre things that we've been, taxpayers have been funding. Now it looks like there are a couple media outlets.
Oh, we just
that have been
played
dragged
that.
into this
Okay, I'm gonna get rid of
conversation,
that.
as far as USAID.
Yeah, because
funding as well.
Politico lost their funding. We can delete that.
So upon coming out here to the
Oh,
briefing room,
shit.
I was made aware.
Hold on, let me go back. Come on, lost my notes.
The Trump administration is continuing to dismantle the U.S. Agency for International Development, posting this message on the agency's main page web. It says on Friday, quote, all USAID direct hire personnel will be placed on administrative leave globally, with the exception of designated personnel responsible for mission-critical functions, core leadership, and specially designated programs. Secretary of State Marco Rubio had this to say.
Our goal for USAID was to align the programs that it fulfills with the foreign policy of the United States. And yet, over the last 2 decades, it has not. And it has gotten worse and worse. And multiple administrations have complained about it, but none have done anything about it. We are going to do something about it. This is not about ending foreign aid. It is about structuring it in a way that furthers the national interest of the United States.
Facts.
For perspective on all of this, we turn now to Andrew Natsios. He was the administrator for USAID during the George W. Bush administration. He's now at Texas A&M University. Andrew Natsios, welcome back to the NewsHour. I just want to start with your response to what we've seen over these last few days, essentially a complete takeover of USAID by Elon Musk, and now the entire team placed on leave.
It's not a takeover, it's a destruction of the agency. And I just want to say, I've always had respect for Marco Rubio, and I don't now because of the nonsense he just said. AID was more aligned with President Bush's foreign policy than the State Department was, and sometimes even than the Defense Department was. That's not the problem. The problem is they don't have an administrator to run the agency to move it toward the right. Whenever a president takes office, they appoint people who agree with their point of view. When there's a Republican president, AID moves to the right. When there's a Democratic president, AID moves to the left, as it should. The programs that they're attacking right now are Biden administration programs. They're not programs that the career people put in place on their own. They were instructed to it by the White House. Why are you blaming the career people at aid for something that Joe Biden did? I don't understand it. It's ridiculous. AID is one of the great powers, humanitarian powers in the world, for the United States to protect the American people and our national interests, and to protect the people in the developing world from disease, from hunger, and to advocate and to change policies to encourage economic growth and investment.
Well, tell us a bit, because it feels as if its future is uncertain. We know Elon Musk says he wants to shut it down. You hear Secretary Rubio saying there's going to be a restructuring. But even in this moment of uncertainty, whatever this is, what are you hearing from people on the ground in the countries USAID serves, and from leaders of the countries who've partnered with the U.S. in this?
Well, the people I talk to are appalled by what's happening. And I'm talking about people in the developing world and people certainly within the agency. The agency is shut down. We can't field DART teams, Disaster Assistance Response Team, which we created 35 years ago. And I was the director of the Office of Foreign Disaster Assistance, which go to disasters all over the world, in civil wars, in famines.
I do have to agree with what he said as far as this did all happen under the Biden Harris, and why are the employees suffering from it? Well, they are.
So you, more than anyone for the past couple of years, have been awakening the rest of the country and the world to this nexus between public and private sector, NGOs, nonprofits, U.S. government agencies, whose acronyms
Tucker
you don't
Carlson.
recognize. And you've described an entire complex that affects censorship, regime change, all kinds of sinister, unconstitutional outcomes that most Americans don't know they're paying for. And I'm from DC, so as you've explained this to me a couple of times, it all has made total sense. Sometimes I wonder, like, do people believe what Mike Pence is saying? And now, over the last week, since the USAID files have dropped, mostly on X, people are discovering what you have been talking about and learning that it's 100% true. And I just wanted to ask how that feels for you.
Man, I love Tucker.
And there have been, I feel the global impact of fundamental changes to U.S. foreign policy that are happening now, because, you know, as I've been saying for so long, I mean, there really is a sort of USAID Truman Show that much of the world lives in. You know, many people found out for the first time this week that 90% of media in Ukraine is funded by USAID. Many people have just now finding out, you know, the extent of U.S. media organizations that are funded by USAID. You know, they're finding out the reach of it in everything from the unions to social media censorship to pandemic and gain of function research to, you know, but strange ties even to things like terrorism and the drug trade. And you know, there's that sort of these institutions that everyone thought were private and independent being corrupted by, you know, USAID's $44 billion odd a year budget. And when I think a lot of people, that was a process that I felt was necessary to tell the story of internet censorship. Because for me, my journey of discovery on this was like everybody else. I thought internet censorship was a domestic story at first. And so I start following the trail of it, and then I see, oh, well, that's weird. At this disinformation conference, the next panel is on energy geopolitics. What are they doing together? Oh, that's weird. And then you go over to the energy geopolitics people, and you see, okay, well, their fellow panelists are all military contractors. Okay, all right, so the military has something to do with the social media censorship and the energy pipeline politics, and in Ukraine have something to do with it. Okay, that's interesting. And then you keep going down the line, and you see, okay, there are these Chamber of Commerce partners, and then you see, oh, there are these suite of humanitarian aid organizations like USAID, NED, the whole suite of NGOs, you know, State Department grantees, National Science Foundation grantees, and you start to see that this is, in order to tell the story, I felt, of internet censorship and what to do to stop it, you had to explain a totally different world than the one people thought that they lived in. And for the first several years of this, when I would do my, you know, little private briefings and bring my PowerPoints around the country, and it was very hard. It was impossible, frankly, to crack through. Even when people saw the receipts on screen, they saw the source documents, and they just couldn't conceive that the world actually works this way, that our country does these things.
Well, listen, that is so long. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Oh, Let me do one more. This is old. I'm trying to get the old ones done. Okay, let me do this one. Because I got dates.
Now, a federal judge has cleared the way for the Trump administration to cut thousands of USAID workers from their jobs. A U.S. District Judge Carl Nichols had originally blocked the government from putting thousands of agency employees on leave, but he is now removing the hold. In his ruling, the judge said the unions that sued the Trump administration did not meet the legal standard that must be met to get a preliminary injunction. The unions were trying to prevent the firing of around 75,000 civil service workers, including those with USAID. The ruling also allows USAID workers abroad to move back to the U.S. within 30 days at the government's expense.
Yeah, I'm going to have to keep that. Because, honey, he won against some contracts.
You don't have to be a rocket scientist. You can just read. The Taliban is classified, and if you don't know, the Taliban's in charge of Afghanistan. They're classified as a specially designated global terrorist organization by OFAC. So post 2021, so this is last year, 2024, we spent $697 million of the taxpayers' dollars in Afghanistan, including $534,719,000 in change from USAID in Afghanistan.
That is bullshit.
By folks named Sarah Yudin Haqqani.
Ooh, hold on.
Haqqani network mean anything to anybody in the room? How about Abdullah bin Laden? Who gets some of that money? Does it ring a bell to anybody in the room? Your money, $697 million annually, plus the shipments of cash funds madrasas, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, ISIS Khorasan, terrorist training camps. That's what it's funding. I now recognize Representative Perry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. USAID in 1961 by President Kennedy, long having lost and strayed from its mission, lost its direction. Even the Clinton administration tried unsuccessfully to reform it. And we spend, I don't know, somewhere between $40 and $50 billion annually on this organization. And with the things that you hear, well, many of us, probably most of this room, agree with projecting America's power for the good of all the world around the globe. But honestly, if our enemies were asked to design a foreign aid program that would actively undermine the United States of America at maximum cost to the taxpayer, they would be hard pressed to create a scheme more effective than USAID.
Facts.
That's shocking to say, but I just
like, share, subscribe. We at our hour. Of course, it's gonna be a part 2. Oh no, I want to do this one real quick. This old too.
Chris Cuomo here.
This Chris Cuomo.
What's right is right. Everybody wants to see less waste, fraud, and abuse in government. We hear it from every politician asking for power. They just don't deliver. And it should be easy. Estimates of what they call in politics WFA. That's how common it is. It has its own acronym. Waste, fraud, and abuse. The estimates are wild. Reports say anywhere from $100 to $500 billion. Another estimate says 5% of all global funding by the federal government is wasted. The OMB, the Office of Management and Budget, just reported that in 2022, the government spent $247 billion in improper payments. What does that mean? Payments made in error, duplicate, or without proper basis.
Wow.
The Government Accountability Office, which both sides rely on for government research, has a high alert list of programs and areas that need to be checked. The Department of Defense, Medicare, the prison system, food safety, cybersecurity, they're all there. Major concerns of mismanagement and waste, fraud, and abuse. But
I have suspicions about what we're seeing here early on, and increasingly they are justified. Now, that list I just told you, the high alert list that the GAO does, do you know what's not on that priority list? USAID. Why? Well, one, it's relatively small. It's less than 1% of the federal budget. And by the way, its share of the budget has shrunk since Reagan, so it's not like it's rapidly growing. I'm not saying there isn't waste there, and the more you find, the better. I'm on board. And it's got a $44 billion budget. But that's nothing compared to the people on this list. Health and Human Services, $2.4 trillion. Department of Defense, $1.3 trillion. This is in 1 year. USAID is not even in the top 10. It's not even close. And guess what? We spend more on federal prisons than we do on foreign aid every year. Think about that. On federal prisons, more than on foreign aid. Think about it. So, again, I can't think of a reason to be against official.
It did need to be restructured. I'm glad it's gone because we funded bullshit. And that's exactly what we did. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. I'm coming right back with the Biden crime family. Then I'll do a little dirt. All right, see y'all.